Lately you saw these type of projects and you wondered, how can I make such a cool animations? And maybe it's not for me, maybe it's too overwhelming. Wrong, because by the end of this video you will understand that VFX is for everybody. So in this video I will teach you how to do VFX in Blender. So before we start in doing VFX, we need to understand what is VFX, or more simplified, visual effects. VFX is everything you add into the scene that wasn't there before, like explosions or scary monster, everything that wasn't there before. So, for starting our VFX project, you need to film a video. For the purpose of this tutorial, make it easy and go outside and film the simplest video as you could. One short notice, don't shake the camera too much because it will be very hard to track this in Blender. You don't have to use a professional camera, you can just use your phone, but if you want a better result with your phone, here is the application that you will need to use. So I will repeat the instructions. Just go outside, film a video, don't move the camera too much, and after you finish to film the video, let's go to Blender. Another thing I forgot to mention about the video filming, make sure it's 25 FPS, okay? Open Blender, go to the right side of the screen, click on the plus and choose motion tracking. And after you open the motion tracking panel, you can just drag your video into the motion tracking view. And now in order to make your video align with Blender timeline, click on set scene frame. And also to see your video in real time in Blender, click on pre-patch. It will bake the video in order to you to see in real time. If you have eye to color, you can notice that the video is a bit gray. We need to go to our properties and go to color monitoring, and in view color change it to standard. Ah, you saw that? Now we have a beautiful colors to our video. But seriously, here is something really important you need to remember before you start doing VFX, and that is set your resolution correctly. Go to your video file properties and make sure it's aligned with your Blender project. I made it a little bit bigger in order to make it fit to Instagram or any social media platforms. And as I said earlier in this tutorial, don't forget to set the project on 25 FPS. And now the fun part begins. Go to the first frame of your animation and press Detect Features. This is the automatic way to get your detect points that will detect your camera movement. But just press Detect Features will not make it perfect as you may think. So let's press Ctrl Z and we will see together how we can make more quality process of Detect Features. First of all, we need to tell Blender on which principle we will detect our features. There are a few principles of detect our features, but for now and for this tutorial we will need to detect our feature by the principle rotation, location and scale. And after that, mark the normalize option. That will help Blender to track the relevant thing in your scene, like for example a sidewalk or another object in your scene, instead of the irrelevant things in your scene like changing of weather or changing of light. And now we can detect features properly. Just make sure in last action window below in the detect features you set the parameters just like I did it, and press the short key Ctrl T to detect the features. One should notice I set it 60 distance here, but eventually I put it in 40 distance because I didn't have enough tracks. But 40 distance was right to my scene. You can play with this and see what fit to your scene. Now in the last frame of the animation, press another time detect features, and now you need to track it backwards. So we press Ctrl Shift T. And now after it's finished in tracking, go to your middle of your timeline. I choose 150. It doesn't matter which frame you choose as long as you remember it. For the last time you press Detect Features and press Ctrl T. And after it's finished in tracking, come back to your frame, in my case it was 150, and press Shift Ctrl T. And now we want to make our tracks clean as possible. We can make it manually, just delete every graph that's below our main graph or above our main graph, as you can see. This is the manual way. We will do the automatic way. Go to the Solve panel and click on Solve Camera Motion. After it finishing loading, you can see above our solve error is 19. This is not good. we want to keep it less than 0.5. You can do it manually again. If you go to display clip and choose info, you can see the error of each track in the scene, and you can delete it manually, everything that above 0.5. Oh, now I see it clip display, not display clip. But if you like me and don't want to do this manually, go to clean tracks and in select choose 0.5, and now press X to delete all the tracks that above 0.5. And mark everything above solve camera motion. It will help Blender to calculate your tracks, and then press again solve camera motion. And after you finish the process and you see the solve error is below 0.5, in my case is 0.3, you can press solve track in scene. And now the scene will appear to your camera with a plane and a cube. And now we want to make the scene accurate, the x-axis and the y-axis accurate according to our filming. So now we will choose 3 tracks on the floor, and we press on the floor button to tell Blender what is our floor in the scene. If it's not working from the first time, don't worry. Try it until you will make it. And in order to set our y and x axis, you can choose a track and click on the x-axis or the y-axis. Again, if it's not working from the first try, don't worry, you will figure it out eventually. And now we will go to the layout mode, and if you want to come back to the tracking mode, you can see it in the right corner. And we will choose the camera, and we will delete the cube and the plane. Now we want to create a shadow surface in order to make our character to react to it. So add a plane and adjust it to your scene. To make it perform well, go to your render settings and make sure under film you mark the transparent option. We want to render our scene with the best lighting as possible. To do this, you go to the camera settings and make sure the opacity is on the maximum. Now it's looking way better. And in this point, choose the plane, go to Objects Properties, and under Visibility, mark the Shadow Catcher option. And in the render mode, you will see it's invisible but reacting to objects. And now, finally, the moment you waited for. Choose an object and add it to your scene. I use the free library of Blender Kite. This is my favorite library. You can choose any library you want or model an object, but I choose from Blender Kite. It's free and I really like it. I like this robot. I thought it's really cool and free, of course, mostly because it's free. And after you chose a character, adjust it to your scene. After you're finishing to adjust the character to the scene, you may notice that the character is not reacting to the environment. It's not matching with the light that's supposed to be on the scene. In order to fix that, we go to the Shading tab and add Environment Texture. And we choose an HDRI. I'll choose my HDRI from Polyhaven because, again, it's free. You can choose any HDRI you want, but this is where I take my HDRIs. Now it's look way better, but we still need to adjust it. So choose your environment texture window and press Ctrl T. Now take a closer look in your scene and adjust the lighting according to what you're seeing. In my case, for example, the light go a bit for the left. So I allowed myself to play a little bit with the animation to make it a little bit interesting. I gave to our robot a really simple keyframes to make it a little bit more interesting. You don't have to, but you have to agree it will make the scene way more interesting. And now you probably think to yourself, hey, why not to render the scene, right? Yes, we will render the scene soon, but before that we need to understand something. This type of scenes will render in the foreground and the background, here as you can see. Choose the background in order to render our animation. And now go to your render settings, unmark motion blur and denoiser. It will make it much easier to render. And change the max samples to 512. For this purpose of this tutorial, I will render straight in Blender, so I will choose the FFmpeg option. In encoding, choose MPEG4, and of course choose the high quality option. Just want to get the render really fast, this is why I'm choosing those options. If you have a different method, it's also okay. And now we will go to the composition settings. In this part we will make sure our object completely fit in our animation. But before we start, make sure you mark the denoising data. Also a little bonus, I want to show you the render process I mentioned before. And as you see, it's render our scene 3 times. Okay, that was fun, but let's come back to our composition and add set alpha. Combine it with the video and the object panel. As you can see, the composition built like the render. It built from the object, the video and the shadow. Now we want to add the invert color. Right after that we want to add blur. You can play with the settings however you want. I finding 5 really good here. And add another set alpha node. After we will connect the node, it will look a little bit weird, but don't worry. We will add the mix color to connect it with another layers in the composition. Right after that, connect the mix color we just added to the mix color that originally have in the composition and connect again the mix color to the main node. Still, after all our hard work, it's looking really weird. In order to change that, go to the mix color we just added and change it to add. Now you see it's giving to our character way more contrast to our scene. I really recommend to play with the settings until you will see the character fit in the scene. Sorry I misled you before with the name of the node that we connect our mix color. It's called alpha over. And now we will add adjust RGB to add the contrast to our character. Plug it in and play with the settings until you see that fit. It always depends on the kind of the scene you're making. That is pretty much it. Though if you feel you have too much noise in your scene, you can add the noise node and connect it properly and it will remove the noise from your scene. But if you don't feel you have too much noise in your scene, so don't add it to your composition. And finally, after all this hard work, we're ready to render the final result. And voila! We got a pretty cool render right there. Now you can add anything you want to your scene with the skill you just learned. Whew, wow! So what have we learned in this video? We learned how to add characters in Blender to our videos and make it really cool. Although it was really beginner friendly and very basic, I hope we release more video about how to make VFX more complicated and make it even more cooler than this video. So don't forget to subscribe and follow, and see you next time.